Good evening from Washington, D.C., and thank you to those of you joining us from around the world for news from a Catholic perspective. I'm Lauren Ashburn. Pope Francis makes a revision to the Catechism of the Catholic Church on the issue of the death penalty. The Vatican says the Holy Father is going back to Pope John Paul II's call for the abolition of capital punishment. Previously, the Catechism said the Church didn't exclude the use of the death penalty if, quote, this is the only possible way of effectively defending human lives against the unjust aggressor. Now, it says, the Church teaches that the death penalty is inadmissible because it is an attack on the inviolability and dignity of the person. Vatican correspondent Juliet Linley joins us from Rome. Juliet, what explanation is the Vatican giving for this update?
Cardinal Luis Ladaria, who is the head of the Vatican's Doctrine Office, Lauren, explains that there is an increasing understanding today that the dignity of a person is not lost even after they've committed the most serious crimes. Now, he says this revision follows the teachings of Pope St. John Paul II, who had affirmed that ending the life of a criminal as punishment for a crime is simply inadmissible. St. John Paul II said, quote, not even a murderer loses his personal dignity, and God himself pledges to guarantee this. Now, he wrote that in his famous encyclical, The Gospel of Life, back in 1995.
Juliet, what has prompted Pope Francis to make these revisions?
Lauren, Pope Francis has spoken out against the death penalty throughout his 5-year pontificate. The Holy Father forecast this revision of the Catechism when he celebrated its 25th anniversary last October. The pontiff said the death penalty violates the gospel and amounts to the voluntary killing of a human life, which, quote, is always sacred in the eyes of the Creator. Now, today the Vatican is stressing the continuity with the Holy Father's immediate predecessors. In 1997, Pope St. John Paul II also revised the text of the Catechism to reflect his encyclical, The Gospel of Life. And that revision, Lauren, said that the use of the death penalty should be very rare, if not practically non-existent. While Benedict XVI, for his part, also recalled the need to make every effort to eliminate the death penalty. Now, this latest revision to the Catechism will be included in all the editions going forward.
Juliet, I worked for the Archdiocese here in Washington when Pope Francis came here in 2015. I remember his address to Congress where he called for the abolition of the death penalty. He seemed to be telegraphing this change to the Catechism.
That's right, Lauren. In that historic address, Francis called for the end of the death penalty, and here is what he had to say to Congress.
I am convinced that this way is the best, since every life is sacred. Every human person is endowed with unalienable dignity, and society can only benefit from the rehabilitation of those convicted of crimes.
Now, on nearly every foreign trip, Francis has visited prisoners to offer words of solidarity and hope, and he actually still stays in touch with a group of Argentine inmates that he ministered to during his years as Archbishop of Buenos Aires, Lauren.
Juliet Linley, EWTN News Nightly Vatican correspondent. Thank you.
Thank you.